brought to you almost live from the Dude in the Basement Studios. Why? Because that's where the good stuff is. It's Sips, Suds, and Smokes with your smoking host, the good old boys. Now it's sippin' time.
It is definitely time for sippin'. This is good old boy Mike, and we are definitely sipping wine today on this segment. Joining me for this discussion is good old gal Lisa.
Hello, Mike.
Lisa is joining us from Wines with Lisa, which is a really great blog. She has a video blog that'll be coming out pretty soon as well. And she is known as the Tipsy Tennessean. Is that right?
Yes, that's my alter ego.
Oh, well,
so I can.
Have one.
This way I can talk about spirits and bourbons and whiskeys.
Oh, well, you're going to fit right in, to all these discussions. Our sip segments are all about wine, distilled spirits, tea, and coffee. So I'm sure those are right in your wheelhouse, aren't they?
Love them all.
Well, today we're going to be talking about wine, and this is going to be a discussion about Oregon Pinot Noir. We have 3 wines from the 2010 vintage and another one from 2011. And these are some really great wines, that we got to taste. I always love doing vintages, don't you?
I do. I love being able to compare. I didn't dislike any of them. I think there's some that I liked more than others because of their characteristics, but other than that, I think they were great. And I love Oregon. I love Oregon wines.
Well, we have some great wines to talk about, as well as just kind of discussing Oregon Pinots in general today. The 4 wines we're going to go through are in this order as well. A to Z, the 2011 vintage. Domaine Drouhin, which is their it is just their Pinot Noir from 2010. The Ponzi Vineyards Tavola, which is their Pinot from 2010, and Willamette Valley Vineyards, their estate version from 2010 as well, the wines that we're going to get to go through. So a lot of great wines for us to talk about today. And, we look forward to the discussion, as well as, just talking about the wine region in general. So, I think a lot of people that may not be aware that wine is made in a lot of regions of the U.S. anyway. A lot of people have probably been introduced to wines from California, since it's probably contains well over 50% of the U.S. Production of wines itself, as well as the exporting of wines, are primarily from California wines as well. But Oregon makes some really great wines, don't they?
I agree. I was just there a couple of years ago, and it was one of my favorite places to be.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed our prior discussion about how we really became introduced to the region. I was fortunate to be in the area for about 6 months, and just the Columbia River Gorge is just such a stunning part of the U.S., and was able to drive through all of Mount Hood, as well as the Philibert Farms and Apple Farms. Waterfall Valley, or Alley, is just really one of my favorite places to go and visit here in the U.S. Just really quite picturesque.
I was there for a week, not quite a week, and it was just overwhelming. You just try to take it all in, and it's the most beautiful country ever, and the wines are just amazing. The food is amazing. The climate. I was there when it wasn't raining a whole lot, so it was beautiful. Well,
I was fortunate to be there both for the grape harvest as well as the Tulip Festival that is in the springtime as well. So I got to see 2 really great events while I was in the area as well. Quite some time ago. It's been a little, probably a good 10 plus years since I've been back to the area, but I really became quite familiar with a lot of the vineyards there. The one story that I really loved hearing about was how in the world did French wines get to be made, in Oregon? More importantly, why is the Pinot Noir grape even doing really well in the region? So, I kind of get to hear about the experimentation they had with various varieties of Pinots in the region back in the 1960s, and they were actually trying to cultivate a wine, a grape that would do well in California. but they really found that the climate was not working well with the variety of grapes, and they came up with the Curry clone. Is the kind of the story that kind of goes behind this, and they actually found out that there was a grape that would do really well in the Oregon Willamette Valley region, and so much of the Pinot that we're tasting today really holds a lot of its heritage going back to this variety of Pinot Noir that was engineered primarily to be cultivated in a different part of the U.S., but flourishes really well, in the Willamette Valley itself. So it's really great that I think we can say we didn't steal the French Burgundy, did we?
Absolutely not. I think that I've been in different wine stores, wine tastings, and they seem to strive to say this is a Burgundian style Pinot Noir. And I think that's great to strive to that.
It's just an oxymoron.
Well, absolutely, and it has its own identity. It can't be exactly the same, but Oregon definitely has a strong identity with this Pinot Noir. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, and I can hear the French, basically just ready to revolt on us, at the thought that we would even begin to make, the same style of wine, here in the U.S., but please do not attack us. We love the French people. Vive la France. But it is a great story about the ability of taking old world grapes and making them flourish in other parts of the world. And I've seen that with a lot of other grapes, but the fact that you can do it with Pinot Noir, I think, is just quite amazing. It's just such a delicate fruit. It bruises easily. It doesn't harvest well. Yields can just be, high and low all over the place. I mean, this is just not a friend of winemakers in general,
Absolutely.
Is it? Yeah.
It's a very fickle grape. And
well, so one of the stories that I really enjoy about some of the heritage of winemaking in the region is from one of the vineyards that we're tasting today falls along the same line, which is actually not only bringing the grape to the U.S., but a French winemaker actually coming to the U.S. and actually deciding to make French-style wines on U.S. soil. I mean, talk about sacrilege. So it was Robert Drouhin back in 1961 that actually ventured out and looked at, possibly making French-style wines in the U.S. And at first, he was looking to do it with Robert Mondavi in California. But he really decided that he really wanted to make things in Oregon with American Pinot Noir grapes. He really felt like that was closer to the style of wines that he'd like to make while he was in France. So he purchased about 100 acres in the Willamette Valley and decided to set up shops and started making French-style Burgundy wines with Pinot Noir grapes in Willamette Valley itself. And this was definitely caught the wine industry, on its ear. That's the first time that somebody had kind of, so to speak, come across the pond to do something like that. So this was probably back in the early 80s when, finally the vines had matured enough where this was even possible. And most of the really great vintages that started to come out of Domaine Drouhin were in the early 90s. And the thing that really stuck Robert was he was torn between two continents and wanted to continue to make wines in France. France was a part of where he wanted to live, and so he decided to teach his fourth daughter. I'm sorry, not his fourth daughter. His daughter, Veronica. I'm going to mispronounce her name, Veronica, how to make French-style wines, and she is what is behind Domaine Drouhin now in Oregon. And so they've actually doubled the size of the vineyard, more than that. It's over 200 plus acres now, and have been producing, really great wines. I've actually tasted probably well over 10 years of vintages of Domaine Drouhin. It's definitely one of my, top vineyards. But it'll be interesting as we talk about these wines today, what I have to say about that particular wine, in comparison to these others. But a great story and a great heritage itself. So, Lisa, do you know anything about the harvest for 2010 in Oregon? Do you remember anything about it? I mean, it was a long time ago, wasn't it?
No, I don't.
Well, I think that's one of the things that I tend to look at when I am looking at, how well is a harvest doing. And this is one of the examples where everybody got it dead wrong, because the weather had been really horrible, and it was really rainy for 2010. And the Pinot Noir has to have a delicate balance of sunlight and rain, in order for the fruit to really fully mature. And so that's the reason why it's so difficult, and it's not grown widely, across the world, is because it's incredibly fickle about the soil. It's incredibly fickle about weather. It is just not a winemaker's friend, because it just is so difficult with all of these characteristics to have any measure of consistency about them, as well as just being so reliant upon the way that weather, may behave around them as well. So, looking at a lot of the harvest reports that were coming out of Oregon, everybody really thought that 2010 was just going to be horrible. And something really strange happened, that quite the opposite has happened with this vintage. As most of the barrel tastings were coming around, about a year later, a lot of people were just saying, wow, I think that this may be in the top 3 vintages that has ever been in the Willamette Valley itself. So it's one of those occasions where the harvest report has no reflection of how well, the wine itself is going to be, which I think really caught a lot of us, really by surprise. So, well, enough of this babble about, Oregon itself, and let's talk about this wine.
All right.
So we have 4 really great wines to talk about today, and the first one that we have to talk about is A to Z from Oregon. And I actually don't know where this is at. I don't know if they're in Newburgh is where they're at, and I'm not really quite sure geography-wise where that is in relationship to Willamette Valley. I want to say it's on the southern side for some reason, but so the A to Z wine from Oregon 2011 is one that is really great to taste it against the 2010s that we have here as well. Some of the tasting notes that I had around this particular wine, the first thing I wrote down was it was rather jammy. It was very fruit forward. I thought there was a lot of blackberry, maybe, something else that was kind of sweetening it up as well, almost like a blueberry, blackberry, kind of blend to it. Very light tannins. This is drinkable now. Don't cellar this. Don't throw it in, a closet or something like that. This is something you need to open, let it breathe for an hour, and then consume it. So, I didn't think this was probably, the best example of what I consider, great Pinot Noir coming out of Oregon. So my rating for this is going to be 2.
Well,
nice, but what else do you have? So, Lisa, what do you think about the A to Z wine?
Well, definitely out of the tasting all 4 of these, I think this is the lighter, less complex of the Pinot Noirs. I'm thinking, again, I'm going to stick with 3. I think it's light, it's fresh, it's fruity. Like you said, it's fruit forward. I didn't get a lot of complexity with it. Why? I think that this would be a great crowd-pleasing wine, sitting outside with your friends, drinking a Pinot Noir on a warm summer day.
I'd almost go far to say this is a tailgate wine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's not. It's definitely. I didn't taste anything that I didn't like. I just like more flavor and a little bit more complexity, and I know Pinot Noir can have that.
Yeah.
But this is. like I said, I would definitely recommend this to somebody who just wants a wine to serve to several people and enjoy, whether it's burgers or steak.
Yeah, it's great for the daily dinner, but not for the engagement party, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, not the special occasion one. So your rating on that was 3.
Yes.
Interesting. What was that again? Well, it was great to actually start off with this wine because it stark contrast with the other 3 that we have to work with. So next up is the Domaine Drouhin 2010. Some of my tasting notes around this was, wow, it's delicate. It's just like this pretty wine that's just kind of sitting right there, just waiting for you to enjoy it. It really had this great finish. I really enjoyed the nose on it. Was just very classic, Pinot Noir. It was just almost like this diehard standard of, when I think of somebody putting a Oregon Pinot in my hand, this was it. I thought it was showing this particular vintage really well. I thought of all the 2010s that I've had, I really thought that this was showing very well for everything that particular vintage, the 2010, kind of brought to the table. So my rating for this is actually going to be 4. Let's keep the secret to ourselves. Pour me another. One of the best compliments I can give practically anything. So, Lisa, what do you think of the Domaine Drouhin for 2010?
Well, I definitely felt like this was a more concentrated wine. It really showed I got a lot of dried, like freeze-dried raspberry, that really concentrated flavor, and had a lot of really good acidity. I enjoyed it. I got a little bit of cherry flavor out of it. It was a nice mouthful when you tasted it. There's a lot of flavors going on in your mouth, and I enjoyed this. This would be fun to pair something with, if I were cooking duck with cherry or something with cherry jam, a crostini with cherry jam. This is something I really enjoy. Had a little hint of vanilla. I thought it was it had a little bit longer finish on it than the first one did.
Definitely.
This is definitely a wine pairing. A food pairing wine. This is, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I don't think this would be a wine I would sit down alone and just have it. I would definitely want something to consume with it, either, a cheese or even like some of the other choices that you had, either a very heavy fruit or, something else that would just cut through it, but something that would not overwhelm the wine. Again, I think delicate would be the word, I would continue to use with this.
And it was a great story. It's a fun story. Every wine has a story.
Very true.
And that makes
that
it,
story.
Well, absolutely. Yeah. That makes it a lot of fun when you're sitting around with your friends.
Every time I pop a bottle from them, it's like I can almost hear France coming out of it. So what's your sips rating on the Domaine Drouhin here of 2010?
A 4.
A
definitely.
4 as well. Let's keep the secret to ourselves. Pour me another. How about that? Well, a really great wine, and would definitely tell you you can still find all of these wines, and that's one of the rules that we try to follow, is making sure we can talk about things that you can definitely find still on at your favorite wine shop as well. Well, next up is a vineyard that I've never had before, Ponzi Vineyards, out of Willamette Valley as well. This is the one they have called Tavola. It is a 2010. Some of my tasting notes around this wine are it's very drinkable now. It's nearly at peak, and it's just incredibly well balanced. I think there was some stark contrast between this and the Drouhin itself, especially on the nose. I noticed that this was. It didn't smell like a big, huge, Pinot. And even saying that is kind of an oxymoron. I mean, I just don't think of Pinots as really being huge wines, but there was something about this on the nose that just, it was a little fleeting. And yet, when I tasted it, I really thought that it outstripped a lot of the aroma that it was bringing to the table. And was actually a far better wine tasting. My rating for the Ponzi Tavola 2010 is going to be a 4 as well.
That's classified.
Let's keep this secret to ourselves. Pour me another. So I'm standing here already with 2 really big, glasses of things that I've poured, twice over, Lisa. What did you think of the Ponzi?
I have to tell you, Mike, I really like this one. I like the concentrated flavors. I got something out of this one that I didn't get out of the first two. There's a little bit of smoke. And like you said, if you just smell it, you don't get that because it is so delicate.
Yeah.
But when you taste it, just a little hint of smoke, which again puts it on the scale a little bit higher for me for the wine and food pairings. I really like it. I felt like there was a lot of concentrated flavor. Again, you get those dried raspberry, strawberry, a little bit of blackberry in there. I enjoyed it.
So what's your sips rating on this one?
Ooh. I'm going to say a 4 or 5 on this one. I really enjoyed it.
I'm going to let you go with a 5.
Oh,
my
Okay.
Oh, my. I was unaware anything could be this good because I really thought it was not just showing well today. I just think this is a really great wine.
Yes.
Definitely. Well, next up is going to be Willamette Valley Vineyards. This is their estate wine from 2010. And another really great vineyard. I've been to this vineyard, probably 2 or 3 times. It has a really great tasting room and just a really great place to go and visit. It's just so picturesque, around this vineyard itself. This wine from 2010, the first word that I wrote was balanced with a capital B. It just, it was just very even keel, on the palate. I have to say that the nose on this particular wine, I didn't probably enjoy as much as the other 2010s. It probably had a bit too much fruit in the nose for me. It had hints of blackberry. It really came through, in the taste itself. So the Willamette Valley. My sips rating for that is actually going to be a 3.
Interesting.
So, I'm sorry. Interesting. What was that again? As I'm going to taste it again while you're talking about, what did you think about the Willamette Valley?
Well, I've been to this area also, and I do love wines from this area. And remember, it is Willamette, damn it. That is how they pronounce it. I want you to say it that way.
Yep.
I do get a lot of dried fruit with this. I think that it does taste ripe. I felt like there were a little bit more tannins in this one, but I also felt like there was a sour factor to it, more like a sour cherry or a raspberry that's not quite ripe.
I think that's right on, sour cherry. That's I agree.
And that's not a bad quality.
No, it's not a bad thing
I think
at all.
that would make it, to me, a different type of food pairing if I were to do that. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
How you would think of different foods to pair with the Willamette Valley versus the Ponzi.
Yeah, I'd probably choose something rather salty to go with, with this. Like almost a salt-crusted fish.
Yeah.
Would be really good,
Ooh.
With this. I can even think of something that's been heavily brined. This would even go well with a very brined, duck or
absolutely.
Even brined turkey if you're making turkey some other time other than Thanksgiving.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I would do a smoked duck breast with a Ponzi, on a crostini with a sour cherry glaze. That's
all right,
what I would.
We gotta finish this episode up quick because now I'm just flat out hungry. Definitely making me hungry talking about all these good pairings.
I know it.
So, what's your sips rating going to be on the Willamette Valley?
Ooh, I'm going to give it a 4 also.
A 4 as well.
Yes.
That's classified.
Let's keep this secret to ourselves. Pour me another. All really great wines from 2010 here for the Oregon Pinots. Well, I think one of the questions that I decided to just come back around is talk about what was the best of the flight. These are 4 wines that are all from Oregon. They're all Pinots. Other than the 2011, these are, common. So what was your best of the flight here out of these 4?
Well, I always think of wine and food pairings because that's what I do. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to go with a Ponzi just because I got that little bit of smoke going in there.
Huh. That is that's quite amazing that that would be the one that you would pick.
Well, that was a difficult choice.
They were all really great wines as well.
Yes, they were.
Well, my best of the flight is exactly the same thing as well. I would have picked the Ponzi. We didn't talk about this in advance, so that's where we're reacting to each other here. Yeah. I just thought that was a really great wine, and I would definitely go back to the Ponzi very easily. I think that it was very approachable from many different angles. I like the fact that it's drinkable now.
Yeah.
I think with the Domaine Drouhin, I would probably lay that down for maybe 2 or 3 years, and then come back and check, see how it's doing at that point. The Willamette Valley, I'd probably lay that down for a longer period of time, maybe closer to 5 years, and then come back around and, take a look at that. It's not that the tannins needed to be softened with any of those. I thought that all the tannins were very approachable for most of these, except maybe the A to Z would be the exception, out of this. So I'm not really laying them down to soften the tannins. It's primarily to let, I think, the fruit fully mature.
Absolutely.
And the Ponzi was ready to go. So go out, buy it now, drink it now would be, one of the really great aspects of that.
Absolutely.
But it was just a really great wine, so it was easy for me to pick that, out of the flight here. Well, I really enjoyed our discussion about all these wines today, and hopefully our listeners enjoyed the discussion about Oregon wines as well. Lisa, any parting thoughts or words of wisdom as people begin to enjoy Oregon Pinots?
Oh, just try them all and find what you like.
Yeah. Lots of great vineyards through Oregon as well that you should try. Don't think that these are by any means the top of the representation of both this vintage or of the region as well. We'll always come back and talk about wines from various parts of the world, and these just happen to represent just this one area and particular vintage. So
they're very approachable. They're fun wines. You can't go wrong with any of them. And I think if everybody had a chance to do this, this is what I love to do more than anything, is to taste the same grape. And that's how people learn. That's how you learn. You learn from tasting the same grape in different places it's grown. It would have been nice to stick a French Burgundy in here.
Yes, I think next time if we do a blind tasting, we didn't do these blind today. Yeah, I'll throw a ringer in there like that. Say, which one was from France? Really?
Oh,
you did that to us, Mike?
That would be. I love doing that.
Yeah,
that would be fun.
I love to trip up people like that. So, especially when they, profess wine geeks.
I just love wine.
Revenge.
That's great.
Well, Lisa, thanks for joining me for the discussion. It was really great to have you on this episode.
Thank you very much. I love this.
Yeah, so we can catch you on Wines with Lisa.
Wine with Lisa.
And the Tipsy Tennessean comes out how often?
Well, I've just now started that little alter ego part of myself, and I'm going to try to put out something weekly to bi-weekly, bi-monthly, excuse me.
And the video series is going to come out later this year?
We are going to start filming this week, weather permitting, and this is going to be, it has not been promoted yet, I had a blast yet, so I'm not going to really give a name right now, but I'm going to be part of a Nashville music grassroots kind of thing to show Nashville, to show what Nashville's all about. And
not the Tipsy Tennessean on video?
Maybe. It depends on what we drink and how much we drink.
Well, it all sounds great. Well, really, thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you.
And I want to thank all of our listeners for joining us for this episode as well. If you haven't taken the time to check us out online, a lot of great places to check us out on the internet. Please take the time to rate this episode if you're listening to us on the internet. If you're listening to us on terrestrial radio, you might want to check out several of our online venues as well. We're on iTunes, we're on TuneIn, we're on Spreaker as our native media host as well. So I want to thank those folks for hosting all of our shows. You can catch us on Twitter at SipSudsSmoke, where we have our daily tasting notes flow out from there. You can contact us anytime here at info@sipsudsandsmokes.com. Again, thank you for joining us. I'm good old boy Mike. I'm going to ask you to keep on sipping.
Cheers.
This has been a One Tan Hand production of Sips, Suds, and Smokes, a program devoted to the appreciation of some of the finer slices of life. From the Dude in the Basement Studios, your hosts, the Good Old Boys, will see you all next time.